Hello, welcome to the Learn English Lab. Today's podcast, Advanced English Listening Practice topic name is How to Catch the Main Idea in Fast Conversations.
Welcome to the deep dive, where our mission is to cut through all that information noise and really deliver the essential insights you need to be better informed. And today, we are diving deep into something I think everyone has felt, that feeling of being in a rapid-fire conversation. Maybe you're in a big business meeting and ideas are just flying, or maybe it's just a dinner party, and you suddenly realize you've lost the thread. You're a few sentences behind.
It's that moment of panic, isn't it?
It is, and that's what we're targeting today, because we think of communication as being about speaking, about output, but it really starts with genuine understanding, with the input.
Right. If you miss that core message, it doesn't matter how smart your response is.
Yeah.
You're off track.
You've missed the point, and that can lead to misunderstandings or, just missed opportunities. Oh, absolutely. And it's such a timely topic. I mean, we live in this accelerated world now. We listen to podcasts at 1.5 speed. We want our information instantly.
We do.
And, our social communication has sort of adapted to that pace. So the ability to pull the main idea out of all that speed, it's not a niche skill anymore. It's essential.
So what we're doing today is providing a kind of roadmap, strategies that are actually backed by cognitive science to get you from that scrambling feeling to feeling confident.
That's the goal.
That sounds like a lifeline. But I think before we get to the strategies, we have to understand why it's so hard in the first place.
Right.
Why does our brain struggle so much when the speed just ramps up?
Okay, so let's start with the hard numbers. The sheer velocity of speech.
Right.
In a normal, relaxed chat, we're talking about maybe 120 to 150 words per minute.
Which feels manageable. There's room to breathe, cognitively speaking.
Exactly. That's a comfort zone. But then you change the setting. Put yourself in an intense debate or a sales pitch, or even just with friends who are really, really passionate about a topic.
And that number just climbs.
It climbs fast. You're easily at 200 words per minute, maybe even higher in short bursts. And that's the first huge strain on your system. It's like constantly redlining your car's engine. Something's going to give.
What's really interesting, though, and I found this a bit surprising, is that some of the research suggests speed alone isn't always the bad guy.
How do you mean?
Well, if the topic is simple, like you're just reading a list of items, people can actually keep up pretty well even at those higher speeds. So our brains can handle velocity in perfect conditions.
Okay, that is a critical distinction.
Right.
Because real life is never perfect conditions.
Right.
Speed is the accelerator, but complexity is what causes the crash. Comprehension really just falls off a cliff when you combine that speed with other things that make your brain work harder.
Like what kind of things?
Well, you add in technical jargon, acronyms you don't know, or maybe an accent that's unfamiliar to you, a really thick one, or even just, the background noise of a busy restaurant.
So your brain is spending all its energy just trying to figure out the individual words.
Exactly. It's spending its entire budget on just decoding the sounds, and there are no resources left over to put all the pieces together and find the main idea.
Which brings us right into the cognitive side of things.
Yeah.
How the brain is actually processing all this information. We're not just like passive tape recorders, are we?
No, not at all. That's a huge misconception. Language processing isn't about just waiting for the sentence to end and then figuring it out. It's an active, real-time construction job.
What do they call it? Incremental processing.
That's the one. Online or incremental processing.
Yeah.
As the words are hitting your ear, your brain is doing a dozen things at once. It's analyzing sounds, it's mapping them to meanings, it's building this mental model of what's being said.
You're trying to guess what's coming next.
And that's maybe the most stressful part. You're constantly updating your hypothesis of where the speaker is going. It's a huge amount of work.
And all of that is happening while running up against the hard limits of our own short-term memory, which is the real bottleneck here.
It is the fundamental bottleneck. Short-term memory is incredibly fragile. Think of it like your brain's workbench. You can only hold so much on it at one time.
And it doesn't stay there for long.
Not at all. The magic number is usually around 7 chunks of information. And even then, they have a shelf life of maybe 20 to 30 seconds before they start to decay, unless you're actively rehearsing them.
So in a fast conversation.
Imagine someone lays out a 3-part argument. If they take, say, 40 seconds to explain the evidence for their second point, the details of their first point might have already started to vanish from your workbench. The whole structure of their argument just collapses in your mind.
I know for me, the thread usually breaks because I'm doing 2 things at once. I'm trying to listen, but I'm also already thinking about what I'm going to say back.
The great mental multitasking myth.
Right. And the analogy I read for this was perfect.
It's like juggling while running a marathon.
Exactly that.
Deep listening, true comprehension. That's the marathon. It's a sustained, high-effort activity. Planning your response, even just a simple question, that's the juggling. Both take a lot of energy.
And you can't really do both well at the same time.
You can't. The second you start diverting your mental energy to the juggling, you immediately lose pace in the marathon. Key details, nuance, they just get dropped because the mental space you need for listening is now being used to plan your output.
Okay, so that's the internal battle. But what about the external factors? There are all these other roadblocks that can make things even harder.
The environment plays a huge role. Think about a typical party or a social mixer.
Oh, yeah.
You've got clinking glasses, music, other conversations happening all around you. Your brain has to work overtime just to isolate the one voice you're trying to focus on.
And in a work setting, the noise can be different. It might be more social or psychological.
That's a great point. Hierarchies, for example. The fear of consequences. Are you really going to interrupt your fast-talking boss to ask what an acronym means?
Probably not.
So that fear adds another layer of cognitive pressure.
Right.
It distracts you from just focusing on the information itself.
And for non-native English speakers, or really anyone learning a new language, this whole problem is magnified.
Oh, it's a massive barrier. You've got the rapid speech plus all the variability of a language, different dialects, idioms that don't make literal sense, industry jargon. It can feel like you're trying to decode a secret message.
Your brain's doing so much more work.
It's doing translation, it's doing cultural context checking, vocabulary retrieval, all on top of the normal processing demands. It's a recipe for overload. And that overload triggers anxiety.
And anxiety makes it even harder to think.
It's a severe cognitive depressant. When you're stressed, your processing power and your ability to retain information just plummet.
And this isn't just an issue for language learners.
No.
Even native speakers run into this.
Absolutely. Think of a fast-talking New Yorker full of financial slang in a meeting with someone who has a very slow, relaxed Southern drawl. They're both native speakers, but their brains have to spend precious energy just adapting to the different rhythms and norms. That's energy that's not being used for comprehension.
It sounds like there's a real emotional tax to these fast conversations.
There is, without a doubt. Stress, social anxiety, the fear of looking slow or stupid. All of these things can cause you to mentally check out.
The fear of missing the point makes you miss the point.
It's a classic self-fulfilling prophecy. Your sense of agency in the conversation shrinks and your focus just follows it right down.
So all of this really points to a foundational philosophy for learning, doesn't it? A way to prioritize.
It does, and this is so important for you, the learner, to grasp. The argument is simple. Listening comprehension, your input, has to come before speaking, your output. It's the bedrock.
Just like how kids learn.
Exactly. Children spend years just absorbing. They're mapping patterns, understanding structures, just taking it all in long before they become fluent speakers. They're building the database first.
So we need to apply that model as adults. In a fast conversation, the first and only job is to absorb the message.
That is the prime directive. Grasp the message before you even think about generating a response. If you go in focused on what you're going to say, you've already lost.
Let's make this really concrete. What's the actual cost of missing the main idea in a few real-world examples?
Okay, first, the social event. Imagine a lively debate at a dinner table about politics. The core idea being discussed is the election really hinges on economic policies.
Right.
But you missed that. Maybe you were distracted. So you jump in with a really enthusiastic point about a candidate's great use of social media.
A point which is totally off topic.
It's completely off topic. It derails the conversation, and you're suddenly feeling a little bit on the outside. That's the social cost.
Okay, what about a business brainstorm? Ideas are flying everywhere.
Yeah, you hear AI integration, and we have to fix the budget, and what about this market segment? It's chaotic.
A lot of noise.
A lot of noise. But if the underlying core strategic shift that's happening is we need to pivot our whole strategy to long-term digital competitiveness, and you only heard the bit about the budget,
then your brilliant idea about last quarter's cost savings is irrelevant.
it falls completely flat. It's just more noise because it doesn't align with where the group is actually heading in that moment.
And the final one, the lecture. The pure information fire hose.
Oh, this is a classic. The expert is moving at top speed. If you fail to grasp their main thesis, their core argument, Your notes just become this chaotic scribble fest.
I had so many notebooks that look like that.
We all do. Pages of disconnected facts and names, but no structure, no way to connect the dots. You've basically transcribed the lecture, but you haven't understood a thing.
Wow. Okay, so just understanding these hurdles is a huge first step. It shifts the blame from I'm a bad listener to I need better tools.
That's it. It's about cognitive and environmental management.
So let's get into those tools. How do we build the mental foundation to actually handle that fire hose?
Okay, so if the first part was about understanding the storm, this part is about building the shelter. It's about the mental processes you need to weather it.
And this is all about active listening, which is way more than just, not talking.
So much more. It's an intentional, high-engagement process. Studies actually show that really good listeners have as much, or sometimes even more, cognitive activity going on than the person who's speaking.
It's a full-body sport, mentally speaking.
It really is. And it has to start with a mindset shift. You have to go into a conversation with curiosity, with a genuine desire to understand, not to compete or to win.
That's a huge shift for a lot of us. Curiosity over competition. We're so conditioned to fight for airtime.
We are. And the fundamental rule to enable that curiosity is to suspend judgment. And most importantly, you have to stop planning your reply while the other person is still talking.
That's the one. That's the hardest part.
It's the single biggest drain on your cognitive resources. If you're mentally drafting your next sentence, you're literally stealing energy from your brain's listening centers. You will miss things.
So how do we fight that urge?
The key technique is something called mental paraphrasing.
Okay.
As the person is speaking, you are constantly and internally rephrasing their message in your own words. So they say something complex, and in your head you're thinking, okay, so the main point is X because of Y and Z.
So it's like creating your own real-time subtitles.
That's a perfect way to put it. It forces you to comprehend, it acts as a little self-check, and it helps you fight that 20-second memory decay we talked about. You're cementing the idea in your mind.
I love that.
Oh,
What about nonverbal cues? We usually think of those as things the speaker does.
but they're incredibly powerful tools for the listener, too. Just maintaining eye contact and nodding your head does two things. It keeps you anchored in the present moment.
Right. It forces you to pay attention.
And it lets you pick up on the speaker's nonverbal cues. A hand gesture that adds emphasis, a shift in posture that signals a change in topic. These little things add a whole other layer of meaning, especially when the words are coming fast.
And then there are those little verbal things we do, the sounds that can actually buy you time.
Oh, these are conversational gold. Little affirmations like, I see, interesting.
Without actually interrupting.
Exactly. They tell the speaker you're engaged, which is good for rapport. But for you, the listener, they are a precious gift. They create a tiny cognitive buffer, a momentary break for your brain to catch up and process the last thing they said before they launch into the next one.
Let's put that into a real scenario, like a fast-paced sales pitch.
Okay, the salesperson is rattling off features right. Our platform uses cloud integration, machine learning, and deep data harvesting, which cuts your costs by 30%.
It's a lot to take in.
It is.
So you're focused, you're nodding, and in that tiny pause where they take a breath, you just say, that sounds very impactful. That one little phrase gives your brain the extra beat it needs to solidify the main idea, efficiency and compliance. And now you're ready for the next wave of information.
That makes so much sense. Okay, so beyond what we do in the moment, what about preparation? The idea of building your vocabulary seems so basic, but I guess it's critical here.
It's absolutely foundational. In a fast conversation, an unfamiliar word is a full stop. Your brain just slams on the brakes to try and figure it out.
And while you're doing that, 3 more sentences have gone by.
Exactly, you're lost. So if you know you're going into a specific conversation, a financial meeting, a talk about architecture, whatever it is, you have to prime your brain. Learn the jargon, the key terms beforehand. Your brain can't afford to be looking up definitions while it's trying to listen.
So you anticipate the topic. But once you're in it, how do you use the structure of what they're saying to your advantage? You mentioned signposts.
Yes. Even the most chaotic rant usually has some kind of structure. An intro, a body, a conclusion, or maybe a problem and a solution. Your job as an active listener is to train your ear to hunt for the verbal signposts that signal that structure.
What would those be?
Things like, the key issue is, or, there are 3 main reasons for this, or, so in summary, these phrases are a gift from the speaker. They're literally telling you, hey, pay attention. The important part is coming right now.
And we need to train our brains to catch those signals. What kind of drills can we do?
Start in a safe space. Use podcasts or documentaries at normal speed. Listen for 5 minutes, then pause it and try to summarize the main idea in one single sentence.
Okay.
Once you can do that consistently, start speeding it up. Play it at 1.25x speed, then 1.5x. This is like weight training for your brain. You're deliberately forcing it to process information faster, building up the resilience you need for a real live conversation.
It sounds like this really requires a lot of self-awareness, metacognition, right? Thinking about your thinking.
That's the core of it.
Yeah.
You have to constantly monitor your own level of understanding in real time. If you get lost, you need to notice it immediately and ask yourself why. Did I start playing my reply? Did I not know a word?
And then you can adjust on the fly.
You can. You can lean in physically. You can try to match the speaker's energy. If they're excited, you show excitement. That kind of behavioral syncing helps keep your brain locked in on their emotional state, which is often tied directly to their main point.
Okay, this is a great foundation. And it leads us perfectly into the really tactical stuff, the things you can do in the moment when the conversation is at full speed.
Yeah.
All right, part 3. This is the toolbox. These are the 8 actionable techniques you can use to not just survive a rapid conversation, but to actually participate in it confidently.
Yes, these are the methods that bridge that gap from just understanding to actually contributing. Let's break them down.
Okay, technique 1, sync with the rhythm. This feels like it's more than just body language.
It is. It's about getting into the flow of the whole group. First, you just watch. You observe the dynamic. Who talks a lot? Are they taking turns? Then you engage non-verbally nodding, mirroring their posture a little.
So you establish a physical presence first.
Exactly. Then you can start to enter verbally, but you do it softly. Let's say it's a fast family debate about a vacation. Someone says, Europe's just too expensive this year. You can sync up by nodding and just softly saying, I hear that.
So you're not offering an opinion yet.
You're just confirming the theme.
Yeah.
You've now identified the core conflict budget versus experience and grounded yourself in it before you jump in with your own idea.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, technique 2. Spot gaps and transitions. This is about using silence to your advantage.
It is, and it takes a lot of discipline. You have to listen for the cues that a speaker is winding down. It could be a drop in their energy, a sigh, a transition phrase like, anyway, or even just them taking a long breath.
And that's your open.
That is your moment. But you don't launch into a big speech. You use your mental summary. So, friends are rapidly trashing a movie. There's a lull. You jump in with, so, boiling it down, the main issue was the pacing. Right, but what did you think of the acting?
You've clarified the core idea and then pivoted the conversation.
Yeah.
Very smart.
Exactly.
Technique 3, match energy and tone. This feels like a social skill, but it has a cognitive benefit.
A huge one. You have to read the room's emotional temperature. If it's a super high energy brainstorm, you mirror that excitement. If it's a serious risk analysis, you adopt a calm, serious tone.
Why does that help with comprehension?
Because it connects you to the emotional heart of the message. It helps you understand what's most important to the speaker. If your team is fired up about a new feature, you mirror that by saying, wow, I love that innovation angle.
Yeah.
You've just instantly grasped the main idea. We're competing on features because you've aligned with the group's excitement about it.
That makes sense. Okay, technique 4, vocalize subtly, the art of the non-interruption.
So this is using those little filler words. Yep. Ah, wow. But the key is the timing. You have to place them in the speaker's natural pauses, like when they take a breath.
So it shows you're listening without derailing them.
Right. And it also preps your own brain to speak. So maybe a professor is giving a really long answer in a Q&A. In their pause, you might quietly say, interesting. And then as the pause continues, you smoothly ask, so the core application is in AI ethics then. You've established your presence and then asked a really sharp, clarifying question.
Nice. All right, technique 5, commit to your point and develop tolerance. This one feels a little different. It's more about your internal mindset.
It's mental martial arts. For the listener, this means you have to develop a really high tolerance for conversational mess. Fast-paced debates are messy. People get interrupted. They talk over each other.
And if you let that frustrate you, you're done.
Your brain freezes. You lose the main idea because you're focused on the rudeness of the interruption. Your job is to ignore the social noise and just keep tracking the substance of the ideas.
So someone gets cut off mid-sentence.
And the intolerant listener gets angry at the interrupter. The tolerant listener just makes a mental note, okay, infrastructure point got cut off, and keeps listening to the main flow of the argument. You stay composed, you track the big picture, and then when you find a gap, you can jump in with, Building on that earlier point about infrastructure.
Which shows you were listening on a much deeper level.
A much deeper level.
Technique 6. Keep contributions concise. This is a hard one. When you finally get a chance to speak, you want to say everything.
But you can't. Brevity is everything in a fast conversation. You have to be ruthless. Edit your thought down to its absolute core, deliver it clearly, and then stop. A great example is a networking event. Your introduction has to be lightning fast. I'm in tech, focused on sustainable AI. My goal is eco-friendly data centers. Boom, done.
Clear and quick. Technique 7. Form subgroups. The survival strategy.
When a big group conversation is just too much cognitive overload, you have to shrink the input stream. Find 1 or 2 people nearby who seem interested in the same thing and just start a little side conversation.
So you're not trying to track 10 speakers anymore.
You're only tracking 2. It dramatically lowers the demand on your brain. At a big conference, if the main group is talking about huge economic trends, you can turn to your neighbor and say, on that specific point about AI, how is that affecting your industry? Now you're having a focused conversation you can actually follow.
Love that. And finally, technique 8. Use pre- and post-processing, the long game.
This is so critical for complex topics. If you know the conversation is coming, do your homework. Research the topic, look up the vocabulary, eliminate the unknowns before you start.
And during the conversation.
Your note-taking should be just keywords, not full sentences. Then the most important part is after. Immediately after the conversation, take 5 minutes to reflect and summarize the main takeaways. Journal it, say it out loud, whatever works.
So you're locking it into your long-term memory.
You're anchoring it. After a fast documentary, you might write down, core argument, innovation requires failure. That simple act makes the learning stick. Okay, so we've got the foundation, we have the toolbox. Now let's really apply this stuff. Let's walk through how you would combine these techniques in those high-pressure situations we all face.
Great. Let's start with scenario 1. Business meeting mayhem. All the speed, all the acronyms.
Okay, so picture a Zoom call. It's frantic. Someone saying, Q3 targets were a miss because of the supply chain, so we need a pivot to digital, cut costs by 15%, and get full CRM integration by EOY.
Wow. That's a blizzard of details and jargon. How do you even start to filter that?
First, you're using those subtle techniques. You're nodding on camera, that's rhythm syncing. You're maybe unmuting to say, understood on the pivot. That's vocalizing. You're showing you're present while your brain is working.
And what is your brain working on?
It's filtering. It's ignoring the specific acronyms, CRM, EOY, Q3, and listening for the strategic goal behind them. The main idea is never the acronym. In this case, the main idea is, we need to cut costs and improve efficiency right now by using digital tools.
So your response has to be about that main idea, not about the details of the supply chain.
That's the key. A bad response would be, maybe we could use a different shipping company. That's a detail. A good response, an effective response is, okay, let's focus on next steps for that digital pivot. First priority should be scouting new vendors.
That shows you got the big picture and you're ready to move forward.
Precisely. You're steering the conversation towards solutions based on the core strategy.
Okay, scenario 2. Social event shenanigans. Less formal, but way more chaotic. Overlapping conversations, jokes, people going off on tangents.
This is a huge test of your tolerance for messiness. The energy is high, the structure is low. You've got one friend saying, Bali is the best for relaxing, and another shouting, no way, Europe has all the culture.
This is where you need to be spotting gaps and matching energy.
Definitely. You have to match the energy with smiles and an enthusiastic tone just to stay in the conversation. But you're also patiently waiting for a gap, maybe after a big laugh. And if the group is just too big and too fast, you use technique 7. You form a subgroup.
You just turn to the person next to you.
And you say, hey, on that point about the travel budget, what are we really talking about cost-wise? You create a manageable conversation. But your main listening goal in all that chaos is to find the common thread.
So it's not about Bali versus Europe.
It's not. The main idea is that people's vacation preferences are based on what they want to get out of it, relaxation or culture.
So a good response would summarize that underlying agreement instead of taking a side.
You got it. In a lull, you could say, it sounds like the real key is matching the trip to the goal, right? Beaches for chilling out, cities for excitement. You've just shown a very high level of comprehension. You've elevated the conversation.
And final scenario, number 3. The lecture or podcast. This is just a fire hose of dense information with no back and forth.
A huge sustained focus challenge. Imagine hearing rising global temperatures lead to weather extremes, droughts, floods, and policy failures like the Paris Accord gaps. It's just complex concept after complex concept.
So you have to rely on your internal techniques here. A lot of mental paraphrasing.
Constant internal translation. In your head, you're simplifying. Okay, warming causes bad weather, which creates policy problems. And you're taking very short keyword notes. Temps, extremes, policy. Your whole goal is to keep asking yourself, what is the single most important point here?
And the main idea in that example would be?
Human impact on the environment needs urgent policy solutions. And if you're listening to a podcast or something recorded, you have to use the tools. The pause button is your best friend.
Rewinding isn't cheating.
Rewinding is a smart strategy. It's an enforced break that lets you confirm you really understood the main idea before you move on.
And this is where post-processing is absolutely essential for actually remembering any of it.
Vital. After you listen to something dense, you must take 10 minutes to summarize the core concept. Just say it into your phone's voice notes. Main risk of AI is biased training data. That simple act is what moves the information from your short-term workbench into your long-term memory. It's the difference between hearing and learning.
Okay, so at this point, you've moved from just trying to survive these conversations to actually engaging with them. But for someone who's feeling pretty good with those foundational tools, what's next? How do you achieve true mastery?
Now we get into some really sophisticated mental management. It's about handling multiple, complex streams of information at the same time.
You call this the mental track strategy. Can you break that down?
I can. In a really complex debate or project meeting, you can't just follow it as one single story. It's too much. So you have to create mental containers or tracks. For a business proposal, maybe track A is only for the pros and benefits. Track B is only for the cons and risks. And track C is just for anything related to cost. So when a speaker jumps really fast from a benefit to a risk, your brain doesn't get confused. It just sorts that piece of information into the right mental box.
So you're organizing the information in real time.
You're preventing that cognitive overload by pre-sorting the input. It's an advanced technique, but it's incredibly powerful.
And for anyone dealing with this in a foreign language, there are other layers to add.
Yes, you have to leverage what we call multimodal input. Research is very clear that listening comprehension goes way up when you add visual cues.
You're not just listening with your ears.
You're listening with your eyes. Watch their hands. A gesture can tell you a lot. Look for cognates words that sound similar to words in your own language. Your brain is getting clues from multiple sources, which makes the whole decoding process much less of a strain.
And technology can be a real ally here.
A huge one. I mean, transcription apps like Otter.ai can be a safety net. In a live meeting, it can capture the details so you can focus on the big picture. And for practice, using slow-motion replay apps to break down fast speech is fantastic. It lets you really analyze what you're hearing.
I also love the connection you make to mindfulness. It suggests that this is also about our internal state, not just techniques.
It's deeply connected. A regular mindfulness practice, even just a few minutes a day, boosts your ability to focus and sustain your attention. It calms down all that internal chatter, the juggling we talked about earlier.
It frees up your mental bandwidth.
It frees up a massive amount of it. A calm mind is a fast mind.
And if you're the one leading the conversation, you can actually help everyone else.
Yes, you can take on the facilitator role. Be the guardian of clarity. Every 10 minutes or so in a fast-paced meeting, you should deliberately stop the flow. Say, okay, let's just recap. The main idea we've agreed on is X. Now let's move to Y.
You're helping everyone's short-term memory reset.
You're ensuring the whole group is on the same page before you accelerate again. It's incredibly effective leadership.
We also have to acknowledge that some of this is cultural.
That's a vital point. In some cultures, speaking faster or even talking over each other is just the norm. It's not seen as rude. If you're not aware of that, it can trigger that anxiety response we know is so damaging to comprehension. So a little cross-cultural research can go a long way.
Okay, to wrap this all up, let's quickly run through the 6 common traps to avoid. These are the pitfalls that can undo all this good work.
Recognizing the bad habit is the first step to fixing it.
All right, pitfall 1. Multitasking. We're all guilty of this. Just glancing at a phone notification.
It's the absolute enemy of comprehension. You cannot do it. If you split your focus, even for a second, you will miss a crucial link in a fast conversation. The only solution is to put the device away. Full stop.
Pitfall 2. Assuming. You think you know where the speaker's going, so you jump ahead.
And you end up arguing with a point they never even made. You're responding to an idea that's only in your own head. The fix is discipline. You have to ask a clarifying question before you formulate your response.
Pitfall 3. Over-interrupting.
This is just a sign of poor listening discipline. It signals that you value your output more than their input. You have to learn to be patient and wait for those natural gaps.
Pitfall 4. Ignoring the nonverbals.
If you're just staring at your notes, you're missing half the message. The body language, the tone of voice, that's what tells you what the speaker thinks is most important. You have to watch for the emphasis.
Pitfall 5. Fatigue. The simple fact that our brains get tired.
Cognitive fatigue is real. A tired brain is a slow brain. You have to manage your energy, take breaks, stay hydrated. Even just stepping away for 5 minutes can completely reset your ability to focus. And of course, fatigue leads right into the last pitfall.
Which is Pitfall 6. Anxiety. The mental freeze.
Anxiety just shuts the whole system down. It's often triggered by that fear of not being able to keep up. But what's really interesting is that research shows when you deliberately focus just on listening, when you take the pressure to speak off yourself, your social anxiety actually goes down.
So just focus on the input.
Focus on the input. Breathe. And remember that it's a sign of strength, not weakness, to ask a smart, clarifying question.
Wow, this has been an incredibly practical deep dive. We started by really diagnosing the problem, the cognitive hurdles, how our own memory limits work against us. Then we built that solid foundation of active listening with things like mental paraphrasing and hunting for those signposts. And finally, we gave you this amazing toolbox of 8 actionable techniques, everything from syncing with the rhythm of a conversation to the long game strategy of pre and post processing.
And the payoff for mastering this is huge. It really is. It leads to deeper connections in your personal life and much smarter decisions in your professional life. It just enriches everything. But it does take practice. You have to start small, in low-stakes situations, and build your confidence from there. And I'd like to leave you with one final thought to think about. The next time you're in one of those conversations where the words are just flying, try to notice not just what the main idea is, but why the speaker is using that particular speed and energy. The way a message is delivered often tells you just as much about what's important as the words themselves.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. Please make sure you like, share, and subscribe to this YouTube channel.